veteran politician of the main opposition All People's Congress, APC party, former member of parliament who was also former Minister of Information, Alhaji Ibrahim bin Kargbo, has emphasized that the APC party cannot afford another election loss, warning that such a defeat could lead to the disintegration of the party. He also called for unity among the party's fractions, noting that internal divisions pose an existential threat to the party's future, among other things. So this morning, to discuss his concerns, Alhaji Ibrahim bin Kargbo has joined us in the studio. Alongside the conversation also, we have Melvin Tijan Mansare, who's a media and political analyst. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us in the program this morning.
Thank you. And
sorry about that rough start there, kicking off into this segment.
Okay.
I'll start with you, Honorable Ibrahim bin Kargbo. Your concerns, where do they stem from?
Well, I wrote a letter recently to the Secretary General of our party expressing my concern that I perceive a disintegration of some aspects of our party. And this has been emphasized by the fact that since we came back from the elections, there has not been respite from among our membership, because we have two groups that stand at variance, arguing about the outcome of the elections. We know that we had difficulties with the past elections. We also know that our candidate at the time, Dr. Samura Kamara, came up with a strong argument that he won the elections. But we also have a set of people within the party who believe that even though we should go along with his thinking about electoral justice, we should also continue to put in place other structures of the party to prepare ourselves for 2018. It would appear that some people believe that we should just abandon the 2018 project and just concentrate on this electoral justice. And I think it is wrong. What I've discovered is that if we continue to argue and continue to fight about a matter that has been almost resolved by the tripartite, we may end up not preparing ourselves for a future election. So like I said, I told the Secretary General that we cannot afford to lose another election. If we make a mistake of losing another election, then of course the party would find itself in a state of total disarray. So those are some of my concerns. But also I discovered that even before the elections, I convened a meeting, a press conference at Binti Mani Hotel, where I expressed concern about the possibility that if anything went wrong with the elections, it would affect the security of the country. And we are experiencing some instability in the country. And I also believe that if we do not have internal security and stability within our own party, we cannot expand it at the national level. So I believe that even the creation of what we call Team A and Team B in the APC was totally unfounded, and it was most unnecessary. And it also contributed towards the disintegration of the party. So I'm asking the Secretary General that concepts that seek to divide the party, such as this Team A, Team B concept, should be wiped out of the party activities entirely. So I just believe that we should begin to work towards bringing the party together. We also should begin to work towards taking the party to other parts of the country. Because after all, Freetown is not the only place where the APC exists. It exists everywhere in the country, in Bo, in Makeni, in Kenema, etc., etc. But it would appear that there are some people in Freetown who think that they have a monopoly of everything, and therefore they have a final say. No, I disagree with that. What I believe is that we should begin to look at the party wholesomely and work towards integrating the party once more.
You've warned of the potential disintegration of the APC party if it loses the 2028 elections. But what do you think are the factors that could lead to such an outcome?
If we remain disunited and we do not work towards 2028 now, and wait until the last day before we begin to prepare ourselves, then of course we'll lose an election. Don't forget that we are not the only party in the country. Don't forget that we have a very strong opponent, the SLPP. They are strong as the APC. The APCs are strong as the SLPP. So if you make one mistake, they'll take advantage of that and they'll just sweep you out of the race. To us, it's important that we take it from that angle as well. But apart from that, there are other smaller political parties. If we continue to waste our time talking about things that we ought to have addressed earlier, then of course the other people take advantage of this and they just put us out of the race. So this is why I believe that if we do not put our house in order now, and this is why I also asked the Secretary General of the party to convince the chairman and other people that we ought to have an expanded NAC meeting to make sure that all people who are interested in the party and those people who are interested in making sure that the party forges ahead come hang heads and find a solution to this problem. At the moment, we know that there is what they call the Samura Kamara faction. There is also the other faction that we must bring together for them to see reason why all of us should work together as one united party. We cannot afford to have these divisions anymore.
But these fractions within the party are all very strong on their opinion that their thought and ideas should stand and it's the way forward for the party. And all sides have not come together to agree on one thing. You've been in politics for such a long time. As a veteran politician, how do you think unity can be restored within the APC party?
Well, we should speak the truth, the facts. This is very important. This I'm asking for either an expanded NAC meeting or a national conference so that all of us can sit down and talk about it. For example, I must agree with you that we have a set of people who believe that they are right and we must go by the and yet there is another set of people who also think that they are right. But of course, we should bring these two groups together for them to see reason, for them to understand why, more than anything else, it is the party that comes first, not the individuals. To us, it's important. To respond to a question, yes, the possibility of disintegration would continue if we do not come together. And the only way by which we can come together is to get these 2-3 factions to sit down and discuss so that we can find the way forward.
Some of the points that come up for some of the sides to this that we've heard, there's one side who's saying, whatever has happened has happened. There are measures put in place to correct whatever issues were, move forward and prepare for an election. There's serious electoral injustice. It should not be swept under the carpet to say you just turn a blind eye to some of the irregularities. What's your position, sincerely, beyond just for the APC as a party, for the nation? Where do you stand? We move forward like it never happened, or delve deeper into what happened?
No, I think it's too harsh to say it's never happened. Now, I told you, like, you know, you hosted me here after my press conference at Bintumani, when I expressed concern about the implications of poorly handled elections. I would not contribute to the fact that we should encourage people to conduct weak elections, failed elections. It will affect the state, and it can create situations. I have seen cases all over the world, and I witnessed in some other countries. I took part in them, where countries almost disintegrated, almost collapsed because of poorly conducted elections. So we cannot encourage that kind of an arrangement in this country. But let me tell you one thing that is very, very clear, that after the elections, we all agreed that there were problems with the elections themselves. The leader of the APC at the time, Samura Kamara, who also was the candidate at the time, raised the issues, and we all agree with him that we should look at this matter. Of course, we also allowed him to provide leadership in this regard. We had conferences, meetings at Bintumani Hotel, and he chaired that meeting. He co-chaired that meeting. He provided the necessary leadership at that point. He signed the documents agreeing that we all should work together as one united country. And then, of course, out of that conference, we also had the tripartite The tripartite, again, he monitored it very closely. In fact, it was he who nominated most of the people who constituted the committee representing the APC. Right? I have my own thoughts about it as well. But the fact was that he nominated most of them. They went there, they came out with 80 recommendations. Now, we want to implement these recommendations. We are implementing them. We are going stage by stage. Not only us, but also the government side. But the important thing is that we cannot waste our time sitting down until the total conclusion of the implementation of the tripartite recommendation and then allow ourselves to go into an election ill-prepared in 2028. So we believe that both things can go side by side. We believe that we can address the issues of the tripartite recommendations. We can also prepare ourselves for 2028. We cannot, I will repeat, we cannot afford to wait and wait and wait until we lose another election. This will be terrible for the party.
With the efforts of both the APC and the SLPP and the involvement of the international community as sort of the middleman to a point of even having moral guarantors, do you think that would suffice to address the post-elections disagreement?
Well, of course, like you already know, the tripartite is an effort to begin to address those issues. You also know that the electoral irregularities and weaknesses have been addressed. If you look at the recommendations, if they are effectively implemented, then we'll see positive results in this country. But at the same time, our position is very clear. My particular position is that in as much as it's necessary for us to implement those recommendations stage by stage and properly and effectively, we cannot also neglect the activities of the party. We should go ahead and undertake other activities. For example, I was very, very surprised when some people said that because of the tripartite, we should not even pursue the registration of our members. We should not look at new people who want to join our party. That was most unacceptable. So, from that angle as well. But to come to a question, yes, addressing the issues of poorly conducted elections is now on course. And this is found in the tripartite recommendations. We are also surprised that the international community has come in and gone out and come in and gone out. The fundamental issue about who won the elections was not asked, right? It remains as it is. So as far as the official implementation of the whole program is concerned, they still assume that Madabio is the president of Sierra Leone. Nobody has said he's not the president of Sierra Leone. And until we get to that point, we see no reason why we should continue to waste time. Go ahead with the implementation of the tripartite committee, but go ahead also to undertake activities to pursue those things that will make our party come back to power.
The 2023 elections is not the first election that main opposition has questioned. That has led to question marks as well raised for the electoral commissioner with questions of the commissioner's integrity. But if we go back to 2012, the situation was reversed. It was the APC in governance, it was the SLPP in main opposition. Elections results were questioned, and we got the slogan from the response that the then commissioner gave, "Go police." In your honest opinion, how do you assess APC's contribution to the situation we're currently in with elections issues, post-elections issues?
Well, I would not even attempt to go back to the history and begin to draw conclusions.
But I've heard that the simple formula to life is the past and the present, which equals to the future.
I also hold the view that
do you not see it that the APC does take part of that responsibility for where we are?
If things went wrong in 2012, they should have been resolved in 2012. Now, the same things have gone wrong again in 2023. And there are people who say they are not going to accept it until it is resolved. So these are two different situations. But the important thing to me is that I want to look at our present situation in the country.
Two different, but the unique identifier is the fact that it's about elections and the will of the people versus the questions of whether the commissioners, the one in 2012 and the one in 2023, led a reflection of the people's actual votes.
People have always said that something had always gone wrong with a specific election at some point. I was at State House at one time when Julius Maada Bio, the then opposition leader, went to State House and with the Christian people to protest about the outcome of the elections. Yes, I remember that. But the fact of the matter is that we are talking about a stalemate now within my own party, and we want to resolve this stalemate. And this is why we continue to work towards peace. And we are not going to allow the outcome of 2023 elections to affect our own party as if we are the culprit. We are not the culprit. How can we not be the culprit to the extent that we have there is the potential for us to lose another election just because this whole business of 2023 is hanging over our necks? To us, it's important. I have looked at the past case. Yes, there were irregularities at some point, but this time around, we are not going to allow the outcome of 2023 to destroy our party. We should go ahead. We should go forward.
All right, I'll come right back to you, Honorable Ibrahim
Yes.
bin Kargbo.
Yes.
This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television and Radio. I'd like to inform our audience that we would overrun today's edition. We're going to go slightly beyond 10 a.m. and we apologize in advance for any inconvenience this may cause to any of you, our lovely audience. Melvin, let me come right to you. Honorable Ibrahim bin Kargbo has been in politics for so long, and he is now saying that a loss of 2028 elections would lead to the disintegration of APC. What are your thoughts, especially relating to all the happenings in the APC party?
Of course, if I will just take a cue from him being an experienced politician, I covered him. I have had a personal encounter with him, and I must say the APC is in need of caliber of people like Honorable Ibrahim Kargbo, because the current situation they find themselves in, they need honest and frank negotiators and mediators from within, and of course there is a need for frank dialogue. So back to the issue of what the prospect holds for 2028 for the APC. First, if you look at the political history of opposition political parties, they are always in ulabalu or in stalemate over either leadership or constitutional matters. And this is not unique to the APC. You ask a question as to where was the SLPP back then, but that was specific to elections. The SLPP had similar kinds of internal wranglings over who should lead the party ahead of the 2018 and 2018 elections particularly. So for the APC, I think as a political party, they will need to navigate this one. But the prospect there, if they fail to put their house in order and they allow another re-election of the SLPP, that will mean they will be sitting again on the bench for another 10 years. And 10 years added to already what is being served by the SLPP will mean almost a lost time for the main opposition. And that will be serious, considering the role they've played in governance and outside of governance. So they must put their house in order. But I think understanding the nature of the problem within the APC will help a lot for mediators or negotiators to come on board. I think the problem within the APC is ideological, one that hinges on what the new 2022 March Constitution says, particularly the provisions of Article 47, which says wherein a leader or a deputy leader contested and they lose, after 6 months, that person should relinquish the position. Apparently, another ideological struggle within the APC is that of what is called in law, I am not a lawyer, the doctrine of necessity, which is all right, by necessity, by law, or by the jury, Samura Kamara or Team A are not supposed to be willing power within the APC. But by virtue of necessity and the fallout of 2023 and the role being played there by Dr. Samura Kamara being one of the chief negotiators on the side of the APC, he has been midwifing the process along the way. So by necessity, not necessarily law, is clinging on. So that's an idea, that is serious ideological issue, and I think that, again, they should consult the APC constitution, because there's a provision that talks about grievance, disputes and grievance handling committee. So if that committee
no
can
pleasure
sit,
interrupting you there.
Yeah.
I think it was sometime last week we had Sidia Tunis in the studio, and he said that as per their constitution, as you rightly put it earlier, 6 months post-elections, the presidential candidate and his deputy are to relinquish their position. And he said that the deputy had gone to the office and handed over his keys, honoring the constitution to relinquish, but there has been challenges with Dr. Samura Kamara, who he says has not been honest with the supporters in going forward and the way forward out of this situation.
I think Sidi Tunis himself must be honest also with the grassroots supporters of his party, because if you're using Honorable Chairman Oba as a yardstick, that is also a false equation. And if you'll permit me, let me read the right reference here.
Go ahead.
And I use the word false equation because as per the provisions of what I'll be reading here, and that is found on Article 47, paragraph 4, it says, where the national leader fails to be elected president of Sierra Leone, he shall relinquish the position of national leader 6 months after the final declaration of election results by the National Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, notwithstanding any petition filed in the Supreme Court or pursuant to any law, and such position shall remain vacant until another election for the party's presidential candidates is conducted pursuant to this constitution. So 6 months after, if you are using it as, the deputy leader, and if you look at the provisions for the deputy leader, that is Article 47B, and it goes to 4, subparagraph 4, it talks about how also the deputy leader. So you ask yourself, why was it not done 6 months after? So the equation there cannot hold water either, because not Cherry Coco or Samura Kamara have perpetuated the fullest of the spirit of Article 47, because it says 6 months, and notwithstanding, even at the APC gone to court, that should not be a bargain for them to relinquish. But again, if you study the APC constitution carefully, it does not clearly stipulate what the relinquishing process is like. For example, it does not state whether if you vacated your position as the national leader or deputy leader, you are still you are automatically not a member of the NAC or not the member of the National Delegates Conference. It's very conspicuous. It's not clear. So in as much as, yes, the onus, I think the quagmire in which the APC finds itself, it's a National Delegates Conference kind of approach they need, because ideologically the party is divided between two factions. And these two factions, for them to have a headway out of the dispute, definitely every member at every cadre, national, district, regional, they must have their say as to, one, should the constitution be amended to accommodate Samura Kamara in perpetuity based on the doctrine of necessity, meaning that, we want to see electoral justice. But again, for Samura Kamara, is in this big dilemma as to, firstly, is electoral justice feasible? When will that be possible? And now you'll be seeing the ideological divide as to how long should we wait for this electoral justice. And that, I think, is the position of the administration of the party, that, all right, we are still yearning for national electoral justice, but that should not be a bargain that we should not put our house in order ahead of 2028. So it's ideological. You cannot say this side is right or this side is wrong, but how they harmonize and fuse these two indifferences is what will make or break them ahead of 2028, and they must do so, and do so very quickly.
Let's look at the electoral pattern in Sierra Leone over the years. It seems that both the APC and the SLPP have had the privilege of 2 terms per party since the days of late former President Ahmad Tijan Kaba. Minus rebel interventions, they seem to be enjoying, each of the presidents, the maximum 2-term elections. We haven't seen yet that any of these parties go as main opposition beyond 10 years. And we also saw in 2018, before that elections, the SLPP then as main opposition was in disarray. And it was quite sketchy, but they pulled through in 2018. What are you foreseeing? Is Sierra Leone about to go through the history of 10 years and switch to the next between the APC and the SLPP? Or are you foreseeing a situation where it's a new history, one party going opposition beyond the usual pattern we've seen?
And it's called the pattern of continuity versus change. It has been the political conversation and discussed in Sierra Leone. Should they continue, well, after 10 years? If you look at the outcome of 2023, it will be very short-sighted to say the SLPP might continue in power. Because look at the reports of international observers, the SLPP still grapples with legitimacy challenges. If you listen to Brian Hunt and read his speech, they will tell you that the election was deeply flawed. But like the elder said, even with the presence of international moral guarantors and whatever report they've published, they've not been able to ascertain who won 2023 elections. And it's a very precarious position for a political party, because you cannot be like SO2 calling your out with Peperata, say, hey, international community says they say all they win. But what are you doing ahead of the next election? So, if we are to use 2023 as a yardstick, I don't envisage a continuity or perpetuity of the SLPP. That is not to say change or continuity is an impossibility. It will mean, well, a seismic change in the political pattern of voting, and not only voting, but the announcement of results. So, again, let's use 2023 as a yardstick, and the writings are all over the world that if 2023 ended in disputes, of course, ECSL was unable to ascertain whether the SLPP won because they failed to provide station-by-station breakdown. Even the SLPP themselves could not justify their victory. They were only banking on, if you know we did not win, go to court and challenge the court. But the simple request by both local, international observers was not fulfilled by the ECSL. So just because of the doubts in 2023, the tendencies of even further doubts for over an SLPP three-term or third term of 5 or 10 years, it's almost, for me, bleak. It's bleak. I'm not saying it's not possible, but even with an APC in disarray, they are still having some huge chances that just by virtue of, at 10 years them for do, even if they don't want it, even if the people voted otherwise, international pressure. We in fact don't know what's the behind-the-scenes agreement between the SLPP over the tripartite and all these things. So the APC, they've got a chance, and that is not to mean that they must not put their house in order. They must do so, and do so fast, have a candidate that they can sell for them to avoid. The APC has been under what I'll call a personality grip. And it's good that Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kargbo was a former advisor to the party's leader, who I think if APC is where it is now, you cannot divorce it from the kind of leadership style of Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma. He almost personalized the party to a point that the party could not flex out of its own muscles anymore, that everybody will have to go to McKinney, everybody will want to dance to the tune. So now the APC is shaking off from this grip of one man, even if man is having that grip, but not as tight as it used to be. And now everybody wants to flex. But how they flex around that, they will need some kind of centralized coordination. They need formidability, and above all, unity, because at the end of the day, they will be needing a lot of resources to rally around one candidate. And all of them will not win. They will have to decide between Samura and some new face, whether it's a new face or an old wine in a new bottle, or a new bottle in an old wine. They will have to decide ideologically. But I think that's the dilemma they find themselves in.
I'll come to Honorable Ivy Kargbo in a moment. But Melvin, yes. The former President Ernest Bai Koroma, post his term in office, the issues that had emerged, some of the faction that was against him were accusing him of being a dictator within the party. At this current point, does the APC need democracy or dictatorship to get itself out of the current disagreement and situation there? I
think autocracy or dictatorship has failed the APC, and they must learn from that from 2018. The APC has got some progressive within that believes that they need democracy, and see the impact of Alfred Peter Conte on the APC. see the impact of the NRM on the APC. So the APC is caught up between, well, conservatives, the old guards, who believe that, this is how we used to do it in 1930s, and they are having now some new schools and new thinkers who believe that we need to progress, and one way of doing so, we must not go for selection anymore. We must go for an election. So democracy is the answer for the APC. They cannot have, I mean, under Ernest Koroma, they lost their chances because it was almost an autocracy over one person deciding for them. So this time, I think if APC wants to succeed and have a sellable candidate, the National Delegates Conference must agree on who they want, and they must do so. It's not going to be entirely one man winning every vote, but the majority must rule. And in this case, that was what was missing in the APC, that a small caboodles or cabal, we are deciding for everybody in a whole, one of the oldest political parties. So now they must shake off that conservatism and say, let's go for pure democracy, and by so doing, create a level playing field. I read the Doyen's article and talking about the sin. He mentioned the unpardonable sin of how they handle Samsumana. And if you look at their new constitution, that is also going to be a matter for the National Delegates Conference, because when you look at their constitution, it talks about readmission. And the fate of Samsumana now, yes, he's been welcome, but officially, has he been readmitted into the party? And if the terms and conditions for such, in tandem with being qualified for example, presidential candidates, these are all National Delegates Conference matter. This cannot only be settled by the NAC or the NEC. No, everybody must come and add their voice. And so the APC, they must be very serious as an opposition, because mind the SLPPs should be happy, although they are also having their own radical inclusion problems from within. But that is not to mean that the APC must not fix its house.
Honorable IB Kargbo, as per the provisions in your constitution, would Samura Kamara, Dr. Samura Kamara, qualify to be a presidential candidate for 2028 elections?
Well, the constitution is very silent on that, and I think he's qualified.
Okay.
His future candidature depends on the will of the people. Would they accept somebody who wants to go for a third term? I'm not too sure about that, but of course the people will always decide. Also importantly, if you read the letter I wrote to the Secretary General, I also insisted that we must convene a national conference to look at take a closer look at the Constitution to address the issues he's raising. And I think it's necessary for us to address those issues. And Samura Kamara is a very, very brilliant man, a great friend of mine. We went to school together. We sat in the same class. So I know him very well. And I also know that he's quite an honest man. The important thing here is that he came into the politics at a time when nobody was very clear as to whether he was going to be the candidate. Well, he was given to us as the candidate, and he contested. But we want him to also understand that the party has been very kind to him.
In what ways? In what ways?
He is a newcomer. Mark it, about 28 people who are vying for this position. And he came in. Actually, we sat in school together. And I was in the APC well before him. He came last minute, just after Ernest Koroma won the presidency. Ernest Koroma insisted that he should be part of his party, part of his government. Even though he was not even a registered voter at the time, which disqualified him to be a minister. Ernest Koroma still insisted that he should be part of his government. So he sent to the Bank of Sierra Leone temporarily to be the governor of the Bank of Sierra Leone. Do
you think he was being groomed by President Ernest Bai Koroma to succeed him?
The point I am making. He was being groomed. After Bank of Sierra Leone, after he had registered as a voter in Sierra Leone, he qualified to be a cabinet minister. He was automatically appointed Minister of Finance, handling the finances of this country. Ernest Koroma had great respect for him. And we look at it up to the point when he left the Ministry of Finance, Ernest Koroma sent him to Foreign Affairs. And he gave him a lot of authority there. And to the point that when Ernest Koroma could not go to the United Nations, Samura represented Sierra Leone, appointed by Ernest Koroma to represent Sierra Leone at the United Nations. This is how far Ernest Koroma went to make him important in society and to groom him. So as far as we are concerned, nobody can cry foul as it relates to Samura Kamara's status within the party. But the important thing I want to state here is that we are talking about the integration of the party. Whether we like it or not, we need to come together as one united group. We need to come together to wipe out this whole Team A, Team B business.
But how would that work, Honorable I.B. Kargbo, when we see, and we also saw previously in 2018, after the APC had a presidential candidate, some of the members of the APC, who you would say could have come on board to join the campaign trail for the party, excluded themselves simply because they did not get the position of flag bearer to run for the presidency of the party. It's another situation where there are still people hoping that 2028 they would be the presidential candidates of the APC. How would it work when obviously not all those people would get the opportunity to be a presidential candidate?
No, those are individuals, and I would not use them to assess other people.
And it's not just one individual. Had it been one, perhaps you would have said it's, a one-off thing. But it's not just an individual. There are a couple of individuals.
I know them very well. They did not leave the APC because they were aggrieved about them not being appointed flag bearers. They left because they wanted to benefit from the sweetness of the SLPP. That is it. So to me, they cannot convince me. The people are talking about all of them do not qualify to be president of Sierra Leone. I'll tell you for free. I know them very well, closely. But for them, it was easier for them to go back to the SLPP to benefit from the largesse of the SLPP. That could be the only reason. But again, coming to your point, individuals must be honest about things they undertake. Like I said, we take the example of S.I. Koroma, who served Sheikh Hassim for so many years. Last minute, Sheikh Hassim decided that he was going to hand power over to Joseph Saidu Momo from the army. S.I. Koroma did not allow his legacy, his loyalty to the party to be interfered with. He volunteered to go and nominate Joseph Saidu Momo at the convention to make it quite clear that the party was speaking with one voice. These are the kind of things. But we don't have those kind of people these days. Now everybody wants to be president. This is why I suggested, and in my letter, if you read it again, you'll discover that I suggested quite a number of things. This time around, we're not going to allow 28 people to vie for the presidency and to make the whole thing untidy. We are going to insist that we set up a committee of very highly respected citizens to screen people even before we send them to the convention. Because not everybody can be president in Sierra Leone. We are talking about a serious matter of running a state. For those of us who have been minister, we know already that to be minister was even a challenging matter.
While not everyone can be president, your party's constitution sets the criteria on who qualifies to vie for flag bearer position.
But we also have a right to screen. We do look at experience and other things. There are other aspects to it all that we should look at. So we are not going to leave it at that. This time around, we are not going to make it as rowdy, as uncanny as it was the last time. It was a mistake the last time. How can you talk about 28, 29 people for one position when you know fully well that it's simply not possible? That is an opportunity given to our enemies to disintegrate the party. And we are not going to allow that anymore. It's important that we look at it from this angle.
But how do you stop people from wanting that position, from vying for that position?
We cannot stop them. For example, you cannot take somebody whom we know that is totally incapable of even running his own home, and he presents himself to be president of Sierra Leone, and we have that information, we have that record. Believe we disqualify him at a small party, that at a small committee created for that purpose, to screen people. Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can be president of Sierra Leone. For goodness sake, the presidency is a very serious matter.
When you say not everyone, especially those who cannot control their homes, this sounds like it would be quite tedious. Except if you're saying that not many people within the party would qualify to be president of Sierra Leone?
No, many people qualify. We agree.
So if many people do, then you should expect the 28 or perhaps above.
Or 40 or 50. Then let me tell you one thing. I have always said, even at party meetings, that the party itself cannot claim that they want to be leaders of Sierra Leone when they are not internally democratic. Internal democracy within the party is also important. For you to choose the right people using electoral methods is very, very important and paramount. So this is why when we talk about wanting to be president of Sierra Leone, we want to rule Sierra Leone, within our own party we should be democratic. People have said in the past that the APC is not internally democratic. And that's why we went ahead to come up with a new constitution. But we have suddenly discovered that the new constitution also has gaps. It has to be, those gaps have to be corrected. He already raised one of the gaps. That is, what about the status of Samura Kamara after now? We should be very, very clear about that. What about the status of somebody who had served as vice president in Sierra Leone? He has come back to the party and suddenly a constitution exists that seems to disqualify him from even being a candidate. So these are the things we want to look at. So in my letter to the Secretary General, I made it very, very clear that could we now look at the constitution clearly for a second time to see those gaps which need to be corrected, so that this misunderstanding within the party cannot continue to exist within our party. To us, it's important that we look at it from that angle. This is the point we are talking about.
Okay, we would need to close, but before I allow you to make your closing curtsies, I'll just read out some of the messages on our Facebook page, which you can add to your closing curtsies. Hosam Contest says, if Alhaji Ibrahim Ben Kargbo still they talk politics, well, this is not big problem business. Davis Beckham says, IB Kargbo, what do you know about Honorable Claude in Newton? He has not been involved in past APC party activities. What's going on? Kriyo Bobo says, Osamu needs electoral justice. Abubakar Rashid says, Mr. Ben Kargbo, don't you think that you were part of the 9-man committee that removed Samsumana, Kainde Bangura and the others that has now led the APC to where it is today? Osam Contest says, Alhaji Ibrahim Ben Kargbo, let me tell you, the APC is the foundation of the setback of Mama Salon. And for APC to gain sanity for the 2028 presidential, parliamentary and local council elections is unachievable, and as such, APC is woefully going to lose the 2028 elections, and that will end in the existence of the APC in Sierra Leone. APC is a deceitful political party that has misled so many youths across the country. Michael Sonsiama Jr. says, Doc, be honest with the public. As a knowledged man in politics, who is the right man for APC? Eddie Grant says, Comrade Kargbo, this is time to unite the party together and prepare for the 2028 election. The infighting in the party for leadership is big concern. If care isn't taken, the SLPP will retain power for long. Osam Conte says, Pa Ben Kargbo, by now with your long existence in politics and your age, you should be now taking care of your old age. Pull on pa politics now, sir. More of the messages. Kriyobobo says, this is why people hate politicians. They are all disingenuous. Sise Ali says, Mr. Honorable Kargbo is saying it all. In other words, the party must move forward in terms of putting the party in order rather than waiting for outcomes of the election committee. Okay, I think I'll have to limit the messages to that because we really do not have enough time. Yes. your response, and then
well,
I'll
in the
close
first
with Melvin.
instance, I'm a retired politician, but still the party is our party, and we cannot see it collapse and disintegrate. People ask me why I did not contest the last election. I said, enough is enough. This country has been kind to me. I've held almost all the positions that you can hold in a political arrangement. So I'm not in politics, full-time politics again. I just want my party to survive. But the important thing also is, somebody raised the issue about 2028. The fact is that 2028 will come, and political parties will contest for elections. It's not only the APC. APC, sit down, don't do anything, wait until 2028, the NGC will go and contest, SF will contest, and some outcome will come. So what do we do in that case? Are we going to sit down until wait until 2028? To us, it's important for that we address these issues as they are now. We are not even suggesting that electoral justice should be ignored. It is part and parcel for our program. But at the same time, we should not ignore the other aspects of the running of the party. To us, it's important that we look at it from this angle. I don't think any more important thing is there that I can talk about. But the important thing is that we believe that whether it is Samura Kamara, whether it is Menkailu Mansare, whether it is the Anes Kuruba camp, all of us must come together to make sure that we prepare ourselves for 2028.
Thank you, Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kargbo. Yes, Melvin, in a few seconds, less than a minute.
I think the APC will need a neutral third party to mediate its internal rifts. They are ideological, they are deep-rooted, and some of them they are endemic. And thus there is a need for credible, I don't want to say international moral guarantors, but domestic moral guarantors to help them out. For someone saying because of the current stalemate within the SLPP, within the APC, they might be beaten again in 2028. There is another side to that coin. It's written, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Wishing for the APC to be in disarray until 2028 and be beaten again by the SLPP, well, if you are an SLPP supporter, you should be wishing for that. But if you are a true Democrat or a political centrist like me, I'll be very concerned, because just take an equation or a microscopic look at 6 years of SLPP ruling and do an equation. So we must not give one political party that overreach of saying that we are lords over the sovereignty of the people. It will be a monopoly. It will be a monopoly, and it's a threat to democracy. It can lead to despotism and autocracy. So that's why a dispute within the APC is a national issue also. Let's not look at this as, oh, now the issue, let them sky day. For especially people that are liberals, people that are Democrats, people who want to see the democracy and the peace and stability thrive in Sierra Leone. A case study as to why dispute in the APC is a threat to security. See what happened on the 15th. We are in some factions, we are holding placards, others we are inviting the police to arrest them. So by virtue of, had it been internal, we would not have seen tear gas, but because of its internal rift is going adrift, it's a threat to the national peace. So everybody must wish for the APC to regain its grounds and democracy is restored. So wish them all the best, like I said, and there is a need for a neutral third party to address these issues. And for those who are saying that the young man must hang his boots, I think this is what we need to inculcate. With such experience, we need them to come and talk. You might see them as biased or having taken sides, but experience, they say, is the best teacher. And for my advice to the young man, I think your letter next time you should address it to either the leader or the chairman of the party, because the Secretary General is just a third man in the hierarchy.
That's administrative procedure.
well, I think they are holding the sharper edge in the equation.
Thank you very much. Melvin Tijan Mansari has been here speaking as a media and political analyst, and we've had Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kargbo, now veteran politician, talking about issues within the main opposition All People's Congress Party.